Good afternoon, and welcome to this Collaboration for Innovation Google Hangout on Air. I'm Ann Ware, and I'll serve as the Consortium for School Networking Project Director for Collaboration for Innovation, which is a collaborative effort between the Consortium for School Networking and the Panasonic Foundation. First, we'd like to bring welcome from the Panasonic Foundation with Scott Thompson. He's the Assistant Executive Director of the Panasonic Foundation. Scott?
Good afternoon. This event begins year 3 of Collaboration for Innovation, so we're very excited about that. We launched this initiative with the belief that school districts committed to advancing equity and excellence have much to teach each other as well as learn from each other. And there's a great opportunity to do just that with this Google Hangout on the thoughtful work that the Hillsborough School District in New Jersey has been doing around their one-on-one initiative. So many thanks to Superintendent Jordan Schiff and his talented team. And back to you, Ann.
Thank you, Scott, so much. And as you can see here on the screen, with us today that Scott just referenced is the Hillsborough Township Public Schools, and they'll be talking to us today about fostering 21st century learning. Their leader, Dr. Jordan Schiff, superintendent, is with us today, and I'm going to turn it over to him to introduce his group, and then we'll come back and talk about the topics that we will be discussing today. Dr. Schiff?
Good afternoon, Ann. Thank you so much for the invitation. We're very excited about sharing the work that we're doing around the one-to-one initiative here in Hillsborough Township, New Jersey. I'd like to introduce on my right the principal of Hillsborough Middle School, Dr. Joe Trabolsky. Also with us is Joel Handler, as well as Dr. Chammy Jenkins, who is principal of the Sunnymead Elementary School. Joel Handler is the Director of Technology and has done a phenomenal job, as well as all of our administrative staff and teaching staff, in providing access and equity to all of our students, particularly when it comes to the availability of technology throughout our district. Before we begin talking about how we have approached this process, I'd like to share with you a little bit about our district and also talk to you a little bit about our journey. And I don't know if you want to introduce that, or you'd like Joel to begin the brief selection.
No, I think we'll just go right ahead with Joel to introduce your district, and then we'll come back and look at the topics we're going to talk about today.
Okay, great. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to share my screen. I have a small little presentation that you can kind of go through. Again, my name is Joel Handler. I'm the Director of Technology here in Hillsborough. So just to give everyone an idea, Hillsborough Township Schools, we're about 7,350 students. We're a K-12 district in New Jersey, central New Jersey. We have 9 schools total. There are 6 elementary schools, all are grade K through 4. Tammy is the principal of one of those schools. Then we have an intermediate school, which is our grade 5-6 school. We have our 7-8 school, our middle school, which Dr. Trabolsky is principal of. And then finally, we have one large high school of 2,400 students that covers grades 9 through 12. So the district started several years ago, and we put up these 3 district technology goals, which kind of drive everything we've done with technology. And the first of those goals is asynchronous learning. And for us, asynchronous learning is about the idea that learning can happen when it's convenient, when it's appropriate, for the child for that time, not necessarily when the bell rings in the room at that time. In grades 5 through 12, and we'll talk about in a minute, we have a one-to-one program where students use the devices in school as well as out of school, so that learning just doesn't happen in the 45-minute confines of that classroom, that period, that time. So that's the idea of asynchronous learning. Our second technology goal is globalizing the curriculum, and the idea of that goal is to break down the walls of the classroom and bring in outside experts, visit outside locations, and technology can make that happen. Examples that we've seen already are ideas where we've brought in authors through connected classroom events where authors will talk with students and they'll learn a little bit more about what they do. We've had students attend real surgeries virtually. We've had knee surgeries, we've had arm surgeries, we had students talking to scientists at the South Pole during some of our globalizing curriculum events. So what our second goal there is the idea of breaking that wall. Another good example would be using the Google Art Project, where we've had many of our students actually take virtual tours of numbers of the world's top museums, art museums, where you can actually walk the Louvre and see the artwork without actually leaving the confines of the school or wherever they may be. And finally, the one that's bolded at the bottom is our most major technology goal, and that is this idea of creation, collaboration, and publication of digital content. That's where students are creating content, they're collaborating, and they're publishing this information to to either the intranet or internet, so that the audience is no longer just them and their teacher, but it's a real world audience that we're dealing with. So those are our 3 technology goals, and everything we do with technology, any decisions we make with technology, we always look at these 3 goals as how we're going to approach those. So we started about 5 years ago with these initiatives to build the environment, and the first item was just adopting the Google Apps suite, which we'll talk about in a second. So about 5 years ago, we started adopting it. We put it in as it was kind of there. People could use it if they wanted to. It was available. So that was 5 years ago. Then 4 years ago, we started with the idea of putting projectors and sound field systems in every single one of our classrooms. So all 512 instructional spaces in our district all have a projector, a mounted projector in that room, along with a sound system that the teacher can wear that their audio is heard throughout the room. Can also be used for multimedia as well, that if you're projecting video through the projectors, the audio will come through the sound system. Also, about 4 years ago, we started piloting this idea of one-to-one, with devices. And 3 years ago, we introduced every staff member having a laptop that is issued to them that they carry to and from school. Apps transition started, like I said, 5 years ago. We brought it into the district, but it was 2 years ago in 2012, or 3 years ago, 2012 school year, that we did a full adoption of the Google Apps suite and made it our core suite. We switched over to Gmail, and our main reason was the collaboration. It was all about the fact that people can work with these documents, work with these tools, collaborative environment, anytime, anywhere, and have true productivity with that. So that was really our main focus. The lower overhead and cost, the anytime, anywhere access, the fact that at the time it was device, but I can use it from any device, really kind of hit home with us. And so that was our reason for transitioning to Google Apps. In the grades 5 through 12, we developed this journey of going towards one-to-one, and we started 4 years ago. We started with a very small pilot at our middle school and at our high school with just 4 classes. Those students were issued devices. They brought them to and from school, and we looked at that year as our initial pilot year to see how well this program works. The success of that program, seeing some of the innovative learning that was happening. We then expanded the program and looked at 10% of our students in grades 5 through 12. At that point, we were comparing different devices, so we had several different devices students were issued. Some students were issued one type, other students were issued a different, and those students would then use those the entire year, and they would bring them to or from school. Then last school year, 2013-14, we expanded the pilot after seeing great successes. We standardized on using Chromebooks at that point, and we went to 20%. So our goal there was to see if we could scale it. So we had done this very small pilot, then we did 10% of our students to try to really get into it, and then we said, okay, now that we know it's working, let's scale it and see if we can support it. And then finally this year, we rolled out 4,600 Chromebooks for every student in grades 5 through 12. In grades K through 2011 to 2013, we began increasing the number of shared Chromebook carts with our students so that we had the accessibility to technology, not yet in a one-to-one environment. In the 13-14 school year, we rolled out a complete one-to-one program where we actually partnered with Google with their Nexus 7 and Play for Education program, and we rolled out 2,500 Nexus 7 tablets to every student in grades K through 4. So every student in grades K through 4 now has a Nexus tablet. Those remain in the school. They do not go home with the students. There are carts in each classroom that holds their tablets. Students will use those as needed. Where in 5 through 12, the students are issued the device. They carry them with them all the time. They bring them home with them, and they come back to school the next day. And as we've increased the amount of technology, we've also started increasing our offerings for training and support. With the amount of technology we put into place, this was a lot for teachers, so we needed to make sure we provided that kind of support for them. And so we built up a support model that really has worked well for our district. Our goal always with training and support is timely and targeted. We have a saying in Hillsborough that if you are not getting trained in technology, you don't want to be trained, because we make offerings all the time available. So we have technology, we have an integration coordinator and an integration specialist. They kind of oversee everything with our one-to-one programs. They work with teachers, they work with our training staff, they kind of monitor the program and make sure any kind of issues are being addressed by our technical staff. We have 13 computer support teachers. They're your first line of defense in our schools. They're certified teachers in those buildings. They will work with teachers in terms of training, in terms of actual physical support. When teacher says something's not working, they're the first people to go there and say, let me get that working for you, or this is something beyond my control or my ability to fix, and they'll help them make sure that those issues get resolved quickly and timely. We have 2 one-year teacher coaches, which is a very unique position. They are classroom teachers that have been pulled from the classroom for 1 year. So it's a 1-year position where we have a 2nd grade teacher and a 7th grade science teacher. For 1 year, they're taken out of the classroom. We tend to think of it as kind of a sabbatical almost. Their goal for that year is to train teachers. They will meet with teachers throughout the day. They will co-teach a lesson with them. They will meet with them during prep periods, during lunch periods, during PLC time, during department meetings. Whenever the teachers want them, they're there. Their goal, that I always stress with them, is they are not there to teach students. They are there to teach teachers technology, so that their goal is when they work with a staff member, when they leave that staff member, they can feel comfortable that that staff member now can independently do whatever they were working on with the tech coaches. And then finally, we introduced a turnkey training program. I'm going to go to the next slide on this. Our turnkey training program, we have about 30 teachers throughout the district, and they're in charge of running training courses. These training courses tend to be about an hour each. And the goal of the program is it's available for staff. Their classes are taught before and after school. So staff can sign up for these classes. Staff are required to take a minimum of 6 hours of classes throughout the year. If they complete those 6 hours, then they're not required to come in on a staff in-service day, which is usually held in May, which is focused on technology. As you can see, we put up the results from last year. We had, out of our about 750 or so certified staff, we had 672, or 89%, complete 6 or more hours of training. Those staff members did not have to come in for that in-service day because they received their training throughout the school year. The real advantage to that is when you have a normal in-service day, it's 6 hours of intense training, and what ends up happening is many teachers we found walk out of that kind of overwhelmed. They've learned a lot that day, but they can't necessarily go back and implement it. They also may have learned amazing things that day that would have been great 3 months ago. So with the Turnkey program, because courses are taught throughout the year, they take courses when it's convenient for them, when it's appropriate for them, on topics that they can then turn around and implement the next day in their classroom. So as you see the results, what was very interesting and an interesting finding in our 2nd year in a row, we had over 20% of our staff participate in more than the allotted 6 hours they were required to do. So they went above and beyond. 20% of our staff went above and beyond, taking additional classes because they were so helpful and relevant to what they were working with. So that is pretty much an overview of Hillsborough's technology growth over the past few years. So at this point, Dr. Schiff, I'll turn it back over to you.
Dr. Schiff, if we could please, just real quickly, and with you a little bit later about the professional learning piece that's going on, and that's really impressive with regards to the percentage of staff that have participated, even more than what you had expected them to do. But for our audience today, here on the screen you see the general areas of discussion today, and you certainly are invited to add questions, if you will, into the comment area in the Google Hangout on Air area. But generally we'll hear around how this one-to-one effort is supporting Hillsborough's ability to foster academic excellence and equity. This collaborative work between COSIN and the Panasonic Foundation, called Collaboration for Innovation, that's exactly what this second and third year of this work is about, is advancing equity and excellence. And so we'll hear more about that. We heard a little bit from Joel around their use of the Google apps, and maybe a little bit more about the Google Play for Education. Their rationale for moving to a one-to-one, and we've heard a little bit about their progress so far. And again, we've heard a bit about professional learning, and look forward to hearing more about. Turn it over to you.
Thank you, Ann. Joel, you did a wonderful job kind of walking us through our journey. I think one of the things that comes to mind as I was looking at the presentation was just the experiences of teachers as well as the experiences of the principals as we began to think about how are we actually transforming the instructional environment. And to speak directly to this issue of equity, Jenkins is the principal of Sunnymead Elementary School. Sunnymead has about 3 times the amount of students in the district who are on free and reduced lunch than the district average. Close to 20% of her kids either qualify for free and reduced lunch. However, the achievement levels of the students in that building is either at or above the district factor group average, which is typically a lot lower in terms of the percentage of students that are on free and reduced lunch. I don't know how much of that can be attributed to technology per se, but we take very seriously our achievement gaps between those children that are dealing with issues of poverty, as well as children of color versus our white and our Asian student population, where we also find achievement gaps, and we consistently try to attempt to close those achievement gaps. So let me kind of turn the conversation over to Dr. Jenkins for a moment to talk about her experiences working with the Nexus 7s, providing equal access to all children within her school. And we thought about the one-to-one initiative, and Joel, myself, and other administrators had a rather spirited debate whether or not we should make the investment of providing same equipment to every single child, or should we do things like many other districts do, called BYOD, bring your own device. We decided specifically to ensure that all children had access to the same technology, that this investment was going to be very important to us. So let me turn it over to Dr. Jenkins, who can share her insights and experiences over at Sunnymead.
Thank you, Jordan. Good afternoon, everyone. As Jordan indicated, we are a Title I school, and prior to the implementation of the one-to-one environment at the elementary level, as you can imagine, some of the students in our school and in the schools throughout the district certainly had access to electronic devices in their homes, but we certainly had a percentage of students, particularly at Sunnymead School, who did not have access to devices in their homes. So once we implemented the one-to-one environment and all of the students now have access, we are feeling that we have certainly, provided equity for all students now at all the elementary schools, specifically at Sunnymead School, because now these students have equal access not only to the devices and have the ability to learn how to use the devices effectively, but they also have equal access to the resources. So we've kind of done away with the have and the have-not perception, and the students are able to, in the classroom environment, they're able to access the same resources, and that we have certainly seen that to be viewed as a very positive thing for all of our students. So it doesn't matter if a student doesn't have the device at home anymore. So we address that issue. Also, we've seen that it's helped in terms of the differentiation of instruction to be able to meet the students, because we do have students obviously functioning at different levels, and because of the resources that teachers now have access to, they're able to manage, better able to manage that differentiation and provide a more authentic platform for differentiating the instruction. Students are able to work at their levels. There are the different resources can be easily collected, stored, and shared with students. So we've seen that as a very positive thing. And also the ability to track student progress on an ongoing basis. For example, one of the programs that the teachers and the students use is RAS Kids, where students are reading books at their level daily, and they're answering questions, and then teachers are able to access their progress. There's a progress report that they can see for individual students, and they're able to use that information to inform their practice and their instruction with those students. So again, I think being able to have that level of access and those levels of variety of resources has certainly bridged the gap, because now we can really provide each student with everything that they need, which really speaks to the concept of equity, because equity is really about meeting students where they are and getting everybody what they need. So we think we're moving in the right direction regarding.
Thank you, Tammy. Joe Chabulski, Dr. Chabulski is the principal of our middle school, and all students in the district go to his school. So he has a unique perspective district-wide at how technology is advancing learning and equity and excellence. And I'd like to give him a few minutes to share his experiences with technology.
Thanks, Jordan. And I see a question has also kind of popped up, which was what was in my mind to start off with, was what do you see that's different in the learning environment in the classroom? How has it sort of changed the structure within the classroom itself? And I was just thinking first, what's still the same? When I go into my classrooms and I see students with their laptops open, their Chromebooks, that's one piece, but their textbooks are still there. They're still paper. They're still engaged questions and engaging the teacher. So a lot of what you traditionally see in a classroom is still there, and yet there's this other whole level of multimedia collaboration going on, where teachers are pushing out to the students a video clip very quickly. Students engage the video clip, or if they're working independently, they're engaged in a video clip here, while another group of students are collaborating on a shared document. I was in a science classroom just the other day, a traditional science experiment where students were measuring, the velocity of cars going down little roller coasters, energy and kinetic energy. But at the same time, they were sketching up their designs first. They had a shared SketchUp so that each student was kind of adding a piece to it and working collaboratively on a shared document. And the teacher was able to pull up one of those at any point, share it with the whole class on the screens. They take a look at what's going on here. Let's talk about what they're doing. So it just created this dynamic in the classroom of sharing and collaboration with integrating their technology as smoothly as it was with their hands-on activities and the dialogue that they have. So it just kind of took everything to another level. And I see a lot of that going on around the school, this multimedia collaboration taking place.
I think it's important for us to emphasize that although this is the kind of conclusion of a 5-year strategic planning process, it's actually the beginning of starting to see this evolution happen within the classroom. And Joe, we've had many conversations about kind of managing the change within the district, calibrating the stress. Can you talk a little bit about our expectations as moving into the one-to-one, and what we expect them to do year one?
So in our first year, as we rolled out the one-to-one, the idea was initially we want people to try. We want them to try without fear of the technology failing, for them to be negatively evaluated on it. So in our first year of the pilot, or first year of rolling out a full one-to-one, and with our pilot years as well, the first year is always, we just want you to try, and we put in so that we can have teachers available. We have the tech coaches, we have the turnkey classes always happening, and especially the tech coaches, especially the computer teachers who are there during the day throughout the day. So part of what they are there for is to, let me try something with you, let me try a lesson. And what we found, what's very interesting, is it usually takes about 3 months. We found this with these are our pilot years. So when we did 10% of our students and when we went to 20%, and even this year we're seeing it. And with the elementary as well, when we rolled out the Nexuses. It takes about 3 months for the teacher to first say, okay, students can bring in the device. We're going to kind of just use them for your traditional stuff. They're going to take notes on them. That's really about it. That's all we're doing with them. And then all of a sudden, a few months into it, they start to realize, well, let me try something. I'm going to try some experiment where I'm going to let the students work collaboratively on something. And all of a sudden, they see it's successful. And so then they're willing to try something else and something else. And usually it takes about 2 to 3 months that at that point they tend to have unanimously said to us, I can't go back. What I'm doing now, there's no way I can go back to traditional, not fully immersed one-to-one classroom. And to speak to what Joe was talking about before, too, where he's walking into these rooms and teachers just started using them, one of the things we've done in our district is develop this culture of technology is not special or it's not unique. So when you go into these rooms, nobody thinks twice about having these devices out. They're on the, like Joe said, they're on the desk. They're there, just along my textbook, along my paper. And when we have visitors come to our school, they look and they're like, wow, the students don't think they're not fazed by this. It's nothing special, and we know though, and we say that's good. That's exactly what we want. Just like when most adults go to work and they sit at a computer, or our teachers have computers, they sit there. They don't get really excited about using them. They get excited about what they're doing with them, and that's the same focus that we have in our district with the use of technology.
And I think that regardless of the color of a kid's skin or how much money their parents make, it is indistinguishable in the classroom when everyone has that same type of access. One of the things that I see on our chat is to try to share with the audience a little bit about how have things changed in the classroom or in the school building as we see the beginning of the one-to-one. Have we seen less discipline problems? Do we see children more engaged? And maybe Tammy, you could take this for me.
Yes, absolutely. I definitely have seen, and I've been speaking with my colleagues at the elementary level, increased student motivation, increased student engagement. The environment has become even more student-centered. It's more of an inquiry-based environment because students can do their own research, and we're seeing a lot more of that even at the primary level, where students are able to access different resources and engage in research and things of that nature. So, and the whole idea of interactive teaching and learning. When I walk into a classroom now, there's some students using the device, others are not, but everybody's very engaged. The students are, for example, one of the apps that they used in the classroom that became very popular at the elementary level, especially, Cahoots. And that particular device is a classroom response system that creates an engaging learning space, and through like a game-based pedagogy. And so you find, students really, in reviewing, say, for a science test, which normally a couple of years ago might not have been the most engaging lesson you could, observe or even teach, but students are highly engaged. They're watching as they're tracking, their classmates are tracking their answer responses, and it's very, very interactive. So I see a lot more, surprisingly, conversations happening in the classrooms, because students are not just working in isolation on the devices, but they're collaborating in the classroom. And I think that's very different from what I would have observed 3 or 4 years ago.
Tammy, Dr. Schiff, I have a quick question for Tammy, if I could. So with the use of these devices, and you mentioned a moment ago about the reading program, do you see an increase in what we call the role of feedback between the teacher and the student, or student to student, and how I'm doing more regularly? Can you speak to that just a bit?
Absolutely, because the teachers and the students are able to get immediate feedback in terms of the progress. The reports, are able to generate reports very quickly and daily. The teachers are absolutely having more conversations with students about their progress, and the beauty of it is that the students themselves can track their progress.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're able to have conversations with their teachers about how they see themselves progressing. And I think that also is a shift.
Well, I just wanted to quickly congratulate you on that. If you or our audience is familiar with the work of John Hattie, we know about specifically, statistically, the value of feedback, not only between a teacher and a student, but between students and students. And so we know that's a real important role for kids figuring out where my gaps are and where I need to go next. So congratulations on that work. Dr. Schiff, I'll come back to you.
Sure. I think just to follow up on some of the things you were saying, whether it's Kahoot or not only are we providing instantaneous feedback, but feedback that can be quickly analyzed by the teacher to determine what steps I need to take next in order to ensure content mastery. So this is not just a tool that we're using in order to provide additional feedback, but it is generating a particular intelligence in the classroom that allows the teacher to take action in a timely and targeted way. I do want to get back to some of the things that Joe was talking about, in particular how you have seen technology either transform what's going on in the classroom or things even outside of the classroom, like discipline referrals or other type of even non-academic type of campus life type of issue.
Before I address that question, though, just to tie back to this notion of equity and how teachers get immediate feedback, I was thinking again about an example, and the app is not particularly as important, but teachers using Nearpod is one of the apps in classrooms where teachers can put out to the students a question, all the kids can respond to the question, the teacher sees immediately how the students are responding. And they're not just multiple choice questions, they can be problem-solving questions. Students actually have to diagram and respond back or write a written response back. Value, or how it added to the whole environment of the classroom and the teacher, was that the teacher was able to see immediately all the students' responses. So it wasn't just a matter of the one student who I call upon to give a response. I could see the entire class's response, and if there were variations that were way off, I could see the teacher responding saying, wow, we're having some trouble here. I'm seeing answers all over the place. Let's take a look at some of these, and could actually call on the students that she wanted to call on to have them, talk about their thinking, about their problem solving, and share that with the entire class. So being able to see the entire class of students at one time can only be done with the use of technology, and it really takes it to another level.
And I think that was kind of a stepping point, just for teachers to organize the classroom a little bit differently, to communicate homework assignments, to distribute and collect materials, has changed, has begun to change in the classroom, and that type of organizational structure was not one of the goals that Joe spoke about before in terms of globalization, asynchronous learning, and the creation, collaboration, and publication of digital content. This was kind of an ancillary thing that we saw happening within the pilot programs that has blossomed into something that we think is very important.
But also to that issue of discipline then in the school, we haven't seen an explosion of discipline issues or problems. In some respects, discipline has shifted a little bit. There seems to be more active engagement and motivation with the technology. Sometimes students are using the technology for off-task behaviors, and those are things we've had to address with students, but kids often get off task with a lot of ways. So the technology certainly gives them a whole new angle at it, but it hasn't been an overwhelming problem. It really has not been an issue overall with the rollout this new year, with every student having it. It hasn't changed significantly in that respect. It has become just part of the norm, part of the background operation of kids in the classroom and throughout the school. And even our students have access to their cell phones and their personal devices too. They don't really use them as much because they have the device that they can quickly communicate with their teacher via email or text message, as much as with mom or dad if they need to, or with one another. But it hasn't really been distracting or disruptive.
Anne, would you like us to shift the conversation a little bit more targeted on Google Play for Education and how we've been working with that in particular at the elementary level?
I think our audience would really like to hear a little bit about how you're putting your toe or foot or up to your knee in the water with regards to using Google Play and where you kind of see that going. Yeah, that'd be fantastic. Thank you.
I think we actually jumped in with both significant partnerships. We continue to have a robust partnership with Google and actually piloted the Google Play for Education. And I'll let Joel and Tammy talk about their experience.
Yeah, so we were the pilot district for the Google Play for Education when we deployed the tablets. The program, we've seen amazing expansion with the offerings from when it first started. Right now, at this point, I see it as being fully, baked, fully ready to go. There were definitely, as we kind of rolled it out, we kind of grew with feedback from us. They gave us feedback, and the program expanded. I know one of our initial concerns at the beginning was the availability of a lot of different apps, whereas now that concern has pretty much gone away. Some of the issues that we're working through now internally with ourselves is how do we determine how to buy, what are good apps and what aren't? How do we want to, and in terms of equity, one of the big issues we're running into in our district now is as you deal with 120 or so different elementary classrooms, how do you determine, well, what's a good app for third graders? And should I be buying this app for this classroom of third graders, or should all third graders be getting that app if that app is good for third graders? So that's some of the new issues that we're kind of wrestling with now as a result, and they're good issues. They're good issues to have.
Right, and along those lines, the district tech turnkey trainers that Joel had mentioned earlier, they have been collaborating with the principals and our computer resource teachers to identify an effective way to do just what Joel said, and that is to identify what apps would be appropriate so that we don't have discrepancies and disparity across the 6 elementary schools. So if a student were to transfer from one of the other schools to Sunnymead as a third grader, what has that child been exposed to? What apps have they had an opportunity to work with? And so we are in conversation with teachers. Teachers are piloting certain apps to help provide feedback, and we're also making sure it's aligned with our curriculum. So we are doing opening up the conversation, and I think we're making some progress in that area, but it's an area that we're growing. It's about really just the collaboration of getting the feedback from the teachers.
Yeah, and I think that just for the people watching this Hangout, the Google Play for Education is basically a large library of pre-screened applications that have been screened by educators that can be searched by grade level and subject type. And it also allows the teacher to push out these applications in a very efficient and an effective way. And that was a good deal of our work as we partnered with Google through this process to provide them with feedback on how teachers are utilizing the process, the apps, the technical aspects of pushing apps from the teacher out to each of the Nexus 7s, and how we were using apps to enhance and support instruction in class.
And one interesting thing, too, to note is that this year, as we rolled out the Chromebook one-to-one in our upper grades, Google Play has actually expanded that you can now begin to push out apps to Chromebook classes. So that's one thing we're just starting to now experiment around with at our upper grades, that teachers at the upper grades can actually, if they find a good app that's on the Chromebook, they can push that out. And they just recently announced, brand new, and they only have a few apps available, but we're starting to merge between the Chrome operating system as well as the Nexus, that you can start to bring certain Nexus apps and be able to run them on the Chrome environment. Evernote is one that we just started looking at literally last week again, to say, hey, we might want to start bringing this into our upper grades with their Chromebooks, because it is such a great app, and it used to just be web-based on the Chromebook, and it wasn't so well baked, it wasn't so great. But now that they have the full Android app available, it really opens up new doors for that whole collaboration. And I believe that's where they're going, is that they're trying to make apps more cross-platform based between Chrome OS and Nexus.
So Joel, just quickly, while we have you there with us, or whomever else would like to respond, it sounds like you have a really good partnership with Google. And I know that many of our listeners would like to know the answer to just that. Do you feel confident about the partnership you have? And it sounds like you do. The second question I'd like to ask, and then I'll turn it back over to Dr. Schiff for any closing remarks that he might have. When you started your turnkey professional learning experience, if you will, what are some of the topics in the professional learning space that you have found that teachers have found most popular, if you will, in those 1 hour segments? Just a couple of them.
So it's almost, there's two extremes. Some of the courses are very application based. I'm going to be showing this app for this hour. We're going to be going over this app and how I use it in my classroom. And a big focus of the Turnkey program is not about really learning a technology skill. It's about learning a technology application in a classroom or in a real environment. Because one of the things we want to make sure that happens is when teachers leave that Turnkey class, that they can go the next day back into their classroom and implement what they've learned. So sometimes when you take technology classes, they tend to be very overwhelming. They'll show you every bell and whistle under the sun for some program, and the teacher walks out of there very overwhelmed, not an idea of how I'm going to actually really use this thing. It sounds great. It looks really awesome. I don't know how I would take this back to my 5th grade science class and implement it or use it. So a big focus, and one of the things that we really strive for with our turnkey classes, is that it's our instructors, it's our science teachers, it's our social studies teachers, it's our elementary teachers who are teaching these classes. And part of what they're doing is they're showing different tools, but they're showing those tools how they use them in a practical sense in their classroom. So that, and a lot of classes tend to appeal to colleagues that teach similar areas. So for example, I might be a turnkey trainer at the high school, and I teach literacy, and a lot of what I teach tends to be using these applications in a literacy classroom, or in a social studies classroom, or even in a science classroom. And what happens though is a lot of those teachers will come to it and be able to leave knowing that, here's this program that we use, Evernote. I brought that before, so we'll talk about that. Here I've used Evernote in my class, and this is how my students are using that to take notes, to collaborate, to draw diagrams that they then share and annotate based on what the literature they're reading. And then what happens is those teachers in my class go through that process with me. They see exactly what I do in my classroom, and they can immediately the next day turn around and do that in their classroom. So that's a big focus of our turnkey training program.
Thanks, Joel. And I think that's really going to be a topic that we're going to want to talk more about in our online community, because I really want to get deeper into this turnkey approach, just when I need it, so I can apply it. So we can talk some more about that. I'll turn it back over to Dr. Schiff.
Just for some remarks, bringing it back to the issue of equity and excellence, we believe very strongly that providing all students with this type of technology can level the playing field and eliminate that digital divide between kids that have and have not. That for some of our families, they can take a vacation to France and take a tour of the Louvre. Other families cannot afford to do that. But by providing them the technology so that they can take a virtual field trip of that museum is again closing that digital divide and making the experiences of the kids that have and the kids that have not more equitable, I think. You have so many times that kids with resources that have difficulty can get tutors and can get additional help after school. They can pay for it. Well, now we're providing all of our kids with the ability that they can go on YouTube if they're having difficulty adding fractions with different denominators, and just plug in adding fractions with different denominators in the search bar for YouTube, and up comes 100 different videos of how to do that. And a child that may be qualifying for free to have a tutor can actually go through one of these tutorials on YouTube free of charge and push the pause button if they need to take a break, push the reverse button if they need to review that one more time. So we're deeply committed to this, not only as an administrative team, not only as teachers, but also as a community. Hillsborough made a significant investment in providing these technologies and the support and the training that goes along with it, and provide by those really big way that this is not just unique to the school, the community that has come around this idea of providing technology for all students and the same technology and making it something that, that the community is willing to invest in. Very important.
Well, Dr. Schiff, we want to, congratulate you, knowing that there's more work to be done. There always is. But congratulate you on the brave journey, that you're taking towards advancing equity and excellence for all students. And as we know with the Panasonic Foundation, all means all. Every single child that you have. So we thank you and your leadership team for joining us today. Through November 1, we invite you to respond to your C4I colleagues in our online community of practice about some specific topics we've talked about today. Joel, for sure, with regards to your turnkey professional learning piece, I know that's of a specific interest to our C4I community. But we say thank you to Hillsborough Township Public Schools for your insights and your willingness to take time to be with us today. We know that there's still lots more work to do today once you leave us. To those that are with us today, we invite you to be with us next, October the 16th. We'll have Yvette Jackson, who is the author of Pedagogy of Confidence, will be with us to further this discussion around advancing equity and excellence. Thanks so much for everyone for being with us today.
Thank you. Our pleasure.
Thank you.